Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimmirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Sakshurunmilitamena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapidam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavancha Shri Rupam Sagrajadam Sahagana Raghunadanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaidam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesa Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishobhanu Sutte Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhya Cha Krupa Sindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai, His Holiness Jai Pada Swami Guru Maharaj ki Jai, Ananta Kodi Vaishnava Vrindi ki Jai. So, ella இன்னைக்கு பகவத்கீதை கிளாஸில் ஜாயின் பண்ணியிருக்க எல்லா பக்தர்களையும் I am very happy to invite all the devotees who are joining today for the Bhagavad-gītā class. Today we will be discussing about the 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. We are going to see the overview of 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā. 4th chapter of Bhagavad-gītā is titled as Transcendental Knowledge. The previous chapter, yesterday what we have seen, that is Karma Yoga. Okay. The title of the 3rd chapter is Karma Yoga. So in the 3rd chapter, we have seen Arjuna, he raised some doubt, he asked some doubts as to, because Krishna told many things, so he wanted to clarify, but because Arjuna was thinking to take sannyasa is the recommendation for him. Therefore, whether to take sannyas or to follow the path of renunciation or to follow the path of action, that was his confusion. So he asked Krishna to tell one thing decisively so that he can pursue that. So therefore, in the 3rd chapter, Krishna recommended to Arjuna to follow the path of action, or he recommended him to follow the path of Nishkama Karma Yoga. That means you perform your actions and duties without expectation of the results, so are offering the results to the Supreme Lord. Rather, you work for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord Vishnu Krishna. So that was the recommendation. But to perform in that level, one needs to be self-controlled, etc. And then Arjuna asks one specific doubt in the 3rd chapter. That doubt, what Arjuna asked was, by what one is impelled to do sinful activity. So that Krishna asked, Arjuna asked in the beginning of the chapter through 2 slokas. He wants a clarification from Krishna in the first 2 slokas. And here in the 36th sloka of 3rd chapter, Krishna raised a doubt, by what one is impelled to sinful acts, even unwillingly, as if engaged by force. So this is the doubt or clarification Arjuna sought from the Supreme Lord. So to that Krishna, the rest of the chapter, I think that 36 plus another up to 43rd sloka, it deals with this particular question. So to Arjuna's this particular question, Krishna said, it is kama only, it is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with mode of passion. That is kama esa krodha esa rajo guna samudpravaha mahasano mahapapma vidhi enam iha vairinam. So Arjuna, Krishna said, "O Arjuna, it is lust only which is born of contact with the material mode of passion and later transform into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." Like that, Krishna very pointedly said it is kama or the lust is responsible for that is the one which forces us to perform or to do sinful actions. Uh, so this lust is covering our real consciousness. This is very important. So this lust is covering every one of us. All jivatma are covered by this lust in varying degrees. This yesterday also we discussed. So it covers our consciousness. It covers our pure consciousness. Our pure consciousness is Krishna consciousness. So we are all Atma. Krishna is our supreme uh, supreme personality of Godhead, and we are all having a relationship with Him. So in that relationship, we are to love and serve and be with Him, and that is the pure Krishna consciousness and the pure knowledge. So that pure consciousness or pure knowledge is covered by the uh, lust. So this lust is present in every one of us in different degrees. And Krishna, it is very interesting to find. He has given three analogies to explain the three different degrees of the coverings by lust. One is the fire covered by smoke. The second analogy he has given is mirror covered by dust. And third analogy is the uh, child in the embryo, not even child, embryo in the womb of the mother. So these three examples has given. So this starting from the fire covered by smoke and mirror covered by dirt and embryo within the womb, these are in the increasing order of covering or increasing degree of covering. So the covering is little less in the case of fire covered by smoke, and it is little more in the case of mirror covered by dirt and embryo in the womb. Because in the embryo in the womb means, so the embryo are yet to form, and the child, it is almost helpless. It cannot move this side, that side. It is constrained on all sides. So in all the three cases, the fire represents our pure consciousness, and the smoke represents the covering of lust. Similarly, the mirror represents our pure knowledge or pure consciousness, and the dirt represents the lust. See, similarly, the embryo, the child which is growing, that represents the pure consciousness or pure knowledge, and the constraints posed by mother's womb, that is the that represents the
Krishna Prabhuji.
yeah.
Prabhuji, the PPT, can you make it full screen? And
Oh, okay, okay.
it is not scrolling, I think.
Okay, is it right?
Yes, probably it is full screen. So you are scrolling. We not started the PPT. We have a chat that we are not scrolling the PPT.
Yeah, yeah. Now only I am because I am covering the over
Okay.
previous
Yes.
chapter, so we will be scrolling after
Yes.
complete the introduction. Then we'll scroll.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay,
Hare.
thank Hare Krishna. So, because we need to understand what is the connection between the third chapter and the present fourth chapter that we are going to see. The connection is this particular topic what we are discussing. The topic is that lust is covering our pure knowledge or pure consciousness. So, in that, the last few slokas, Krishna has explained how this lust is covering our pure consciousness or our pure knowledge. So, these three the analogies what the Supreme Lord Krishna has given represents roughly the first analogy, fire covered by smoke. It represents the consciousness level of human beings. The mirror covered by dirt, it is little more thicker covering that represents the animals and the other species. And the more thicker covering represented by the analogy given in the analogy of embryo covered by the womb, embryo within the womb, that like trees and plants. So that way, in a human form, the consciousness is quite well developed. Same Atma, as he has gradually evolved, and finally, when it attains to the human form or human body, then the consciousness is quite well developed. So that means that much the covering of lust is has become smaller. But if in this stage, when we have a human body and when the Atma is in the human form, uh, just by how in a fire, when we fan the fire and gradually the smoke will disappear and the real fire will manifest. Same way, here in the human form, when the Atma once attained the human form, by proper cultivation of spiritual consciousness or Krishna consciousness, we will be able to get rid of this smoke of lust, and that is represented by the smoke. The lust of smoke of lust can be uh, removed, or we can get rid of the smoke, lusty smoke, smoke of lust from the fire. Same way, we can develop our pure consciousness, that is to love and serve Krishna. And that is now, uh, because of this covering, it is remaining dormant. So, what Krishna here explains is our pure knowledge is covered by this lust. So that he has hint where all it is sitting in the senses, in the mind, and also in the intelligence. All these places the lust is sitting, and how to purify this also we have discussed yesterday. So finally he said, um, but the Atma, Krishna also gives a very important strength. He says, Indriyani paraniyahu indriyabhyo paramanaga uh, manasastu parabuddhir yo buddhaye para tastu sa. So, though the lust is sitting in all these different strategic places, but all these places are inferior to the soul, uh, because he gives the indriyas, senses are inferior to mind, and mind is inferior to buddhi, or rather, if you say other way, mind is superior to the senses and intelligence is superior to the mind, and Atma is superior to everything. So, since you are the supreme, you are the controller, you are the master, you can defeat these senses, or you can purify the senses, you can purify the mind and purify the intelligence through proper cultivation of spiritual knowledge. That requires a determination. So the knowledge is presently covered by lust. So that is the connection between the fourth chapter and the fifth chapter, third chapter and the fourth chapter. So in the third chapter, as we have just briefly seen, our lust is covering our true knowledge, true Krishna consciousness. That if the knowledge is covered, that means we are in ignorance. So when we are ignorance, then the ignorance binds us to the material world. Therefore, how to get rid of this lust? Then that requires proper cultivation. That means dutiful, detached work. Dutiful, detached work. So we should not be attached to the fruits of the work, and at the same time, we should not be negligent of our duties. So dutiful, detached work or nishkama karma yoga, that is the means given to attain transcendental knowledge. So this is the connection. So that dutiful detached work or karma yoga is to be performed to gain knowledge. So that knowledge is, what is that knowledge and how it is helpful in our getting our freedom. That is what Krishna is describing in the fourth chapter. So in the fourth chapter, if you see, uh, the we have 42 slokas in the fourth chapter. Each in these 42 slokas deals with four different themes. In the first 10 slokas, this is whenever we talk of transcendental knowledge. So transcendental knowledge means knowledge about God or knowledge about Krishna. So in the first 10 slokas, Krishna explains the transcendental knowledge about himself, about Krishna. And then in the section 2, 11 to 15, that is, here Krishna explains how to apply this transcendental knowledge in our life. And section 3, understanding karma on the platform of jnana. And then in section 4, sacrifices lead to transcendental knowledge. All sacrifices, the different sacrifices are prescribed. So every day goal of all these sacrifices is to gain transcendental knowledge. So like that, then he concludes in the fourth chapter. Uh, so when we see the first uh, part of this chapter 4, this chapter starts with actually Arjuna has not raised any doubt in the beginning of the fourth chapter. Whatever he asked is in the third chapter, 36th sloka. Now Krishna, he, after explaining and the lust is covering our true or pure knowledge, Krishna is trying to explain what is that knowledge. So he, in fact, we get information about the history of the knowledge. So what the Supreme Lord says, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Imam Vivashvate Yogam Praktavan Aham Avyayam Vivashvan Manave Praha Manu Rikshvakave Bravit. This supreme science or transcendental science, whatever knowledge I am giving in Bhagavad-gītā, or this Vedic knowledge as a whole, I have instructed this knowledge to sun god Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, Manu instructed it to instructed it to Ikshvaku, and in this order, in this way, this knowledge has been coming down in a parampara system. So evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu. Sa kalenaha mahatta yoga nashta parantapa. So Krishna gives and this, how the knowledge, because Krishna is the source of everything, and therefore he is the source of transcendental knowledge, and knowledge is about him. Veda is cha sarvair aham meva vedya vedanta krit veda videva chaham. So therefore the real knowledge is coming from him, and he himself is the source of object of that knowledge. So therefore from Krishna he has given the Vedic scripture, this scriptural knowledge or transcendent knowledge to sun god Vivaswan, Vivaswan to Manu, Manu to Ikshvaku. In that way, it has been coming down in the form of like a cycle chain, uh, disciplic chain or disciplic succession. So this way it has been coming down in the human society, but in course of time, somehow this disciplic succession has broken, and the knowledge appears to be lost. So the same knowledge, sa evayam ayate adya yoga purakta puratana, whatever knowledge that I have spoken to sun god several uh, years or several yugas back, the same knowledge I am going to give to you, or the same knowledge I am giving you right now. Sa evayam ayate adya yoga purakta puratana. Because why I am giving you this knowledge? Because Krishna, he chooses the right person to communicate or transfer this knowledge. So who can acquire that knowledge, and from whom, and what it is all about? So this is actually, this education is Raja Vidya, and the Raja Guyam, and this is eternal knowledge, because whatever uh, he taught sun god Vivaswan, the same knowledge he is giving now. In future also the same knowledge will be coming from him. So who can acquire this knowledge? That Krishna tells, Bhakto asime sakaseti, because you are my devotee and my friend. So that is the qualification to acquire this knowledge. If we have a friendly, we need not be personally present with Krishna as Arjuna was. So if we have a friendly disposition towards Krishna, in any way, as a father, mother, or friend, some friendly disposition are the our attitude towards Krishna, if it is in the friendly form, then this knowledge will automatically manifest in our heart. This is a Divya Jnana. So who can acquire this knowledge? Only those who are friendly with Krishna, who are favorably disposed toward Krishna. That is sufficient to gain this knowledge. And this knowledge is to be acquired from Krishna or his bona fide representatives, the acharyas. And what it is all about? This is all about the Supreme Lord, and the spiritual world, material world, and about us, and the relation between the Supreme Lord Krishna and us. So this is the transcendental knowledge. So who can receive this knowledge? Devotees can receive, friend, relative, relevant inquiry. So we should also ask Krishna. We are seeing here how Arjuna is putting forth very relevant inquiry at the right time and getting his doubts clarified. So relevant inquiry is very important, and following the instruction, just hearing alone, it's not sufficient. We should also put it into practice in our life. So following the instructions. So this is explained in the third sloka of this chapter. Then now Krishna is Arjuna is asking. So, okay, this is also, let us discuss from whom one should receive this knowledge. So, for example, these are some examples of very famous or premier institutions in the world. University, Oxford University, um, other in India, so CBSE schools, MIT in USA. So when somebody wants to gain very high educational certification or degrees. So they choose to go to such reputed institutions to gain their knowledge. So even when we buy some product, we check whether it is ISI certified, ISO certified, like that. So if somebody gets a degree from MIT or Oxford University, they are considered to be very knowledgeable. So same way, here this knowledge has to be acquired from Krishna or the acharyas who are coming in the Guru Parampara. So here that same point Krishna has explained, Evam Parampara Praptam Imam Rajashayo Viduhu Sa Kalinaka Mahata Yoga Nashta Parantapa. So this way the spiritual knowledge has been coming down in a through proper disciplic succession. Huh? So if anyone receives the knowledge not from the proper sampradaya, sampradaya vihinaye mantraste nishfalamataha. So any mantra that does not come in disciplic succession is considered to be powerless or useless. So therefore, in the Vedas, it is mentioned there are four divine individuals or great acharyas. They will appear in the age of Kali to establish the disciplic schools, various schools. So that is also mentioned in this. Kalo Bhavishyanti Chatvara Sampradayina. Four Chatvara means four Sampradaya. In Kali Yuga, they will be establishing. That is Sri Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Sanaka Sampradaya. Uh, so Sri Sampradaya, Brahma Sampradaya, Rudra Sampradaya, Sanaka Sampradaya, Vaishnava Shiti Pavana. And these four Sampradayas will the, was established. So Sri Sampradaya means that is Sri means Lakshmi, Mahalakshmi. That is Sri Sampradaya. Even today it is there very strongly in the south. So that Lakshmi Sampradaya, the prominent Acharya, the founder Acharya is Ramanujacharya. And similarly Rudra and other Sampradaya, the other Acharyas are for example, Brahma Sampradaya, the founder Acharya is Madhvacharya, and for the Brahma Sampradaya, Vishnu Swami was the Acharya, founder Acharya. In the Rudra Sampradaya, Nimbaditya was the Acharya. So like that, these four Sampradayas are present in the world to disseminate the transcendental knowledge to the people. It is all these four sampradayas are present in we even today we can see their presence and their teachings in different parts of the world, maybe more prominently in India. Okay, so therefore this is receiving the knowledge in the proper sampradaya is very very important. So the parampara in which ISKCON comes is given here, starting from Krishna, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, Madhva, Padmanabha, then six Mahaprabhu, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Rupa Goswami, then the six Goswamis, then other acharyas, Raghunatha, Jiva Goswami, Krishna Das, like that, and the founder acharya of ISKCON, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and the other acharyas who are preaching, spreading the holy name and spreading this transcendental knowledge throughout the world. So this is this acharya disciplic succession of ISKCON acharyas or Gaudiya Sampradaya acharyas. So when now this knowledge is Krishna is Arjuna gets a doubt. He asks, now you are telling me that you have instructed the knowledge, transcendental knowledge, sun god Vivasvan, but you have appeared only recently, whereas sun god was present many yugas before. So uh, what am I to understand from this? Huh? So that is the doubt raised by Arjuna. Aparam bhavato janma param janma vivashvata katam etat vijaneyam tvam ado praktavaniti. How can I understand that you have instructed this to sun god Vivaswan, because you are appeared only now? Then to that Krishna tells, hmm, bahuni me vyatitani. So many times you and I have appeared on this earth, on the material world. Uh, I have We have passed many births and disappearances. I can remember all of them, and you forget everything. So this is the difference between the Supreme Lord and ordinary Jivatma like us. So when does the Lord appear? Why does the Lord appear? What happens by gaining this knowledge? These are very important. So what's it all about? So now Krishna is telling, um, so he, this Krishna and Arjuna, we are eternal. So both of them, they appeared in several times. So therefore, when Arjuna asked, Krishna is giving that we have appeared several times, but you have forgotten. So we also forget. We have lived many lives. We do not remember the last life, even what happened 10 years back, 1 year back, even sometime even one day back, what happened, we not able to clearly tell. So now Krishna is explaining about himself, because he has asked this question. Taking this question, Krishna is giving so much information about about himself. So he is telling, we are, you and I, we have come several times into the material world. I am ajo api san avyayatma. I am unborn, eternal. uh, uh, Still I appear every time. Ajo api san avyayatma bhutanam ishwar api san prakritim swam adhisthaya sambhavami atma mayaya. So I personally appear uh, frequently, uh, at periodicity. Then what is that purpose? Or when he appears? All this he is explaining. Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam sajami aham. And Krishna says, I appear, and whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, and a predominant rise of irreligion, at that time I dissent myself. So this is actually, dissent means he is always present in the spiritual world, Goloka Vaikunda, and in the material world also he is present in the form of his energy, in the form of his expansions. Even as a Paramatma expansion, he is always present, but we cannot see the Paramatma or other form. Or but when he Krishna descends, as he says, Srajami Aham, when he descends and manifests himself, then every one of us can see, as the during Krishna's manifested pastime, all the people in the at least Bharata Varsha, they could see him, and they have interacted with him. So here Krishna explains the uh, purpose of his descent. Why does the Lord appear? Whenever there is a decline in religious practices, religion or dharma, then he says, I appear. And after appearing, what he does, what is the purpose of this appearance? Paritranaya sadhunam vinasaya cha duskritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So to protect and deliver the devotees, pious, and to annihilate the miscreants who are disturbing the devotees, who are disturbing the dharma itself. Then, to after annihilating these miscreants, the Supreme Lord re-establishes the principles of religion. This is the purpose of the Supreme Lord's appearance. So I myself appear millennium after millennium. So when the Supreme Lord appears like this, at during the Yada Yada hi Dharmasya glanir, dharmasya glanir. When dharma, when it is degraded or affected, then he appears. And during his appearance, the Supreme Lord, he appears in a very miraculous way, and he performs many wonderful activities, leelas, like lifting the Govardhana or fighting with the different asuras, so many things. Marrying 16,100 wives, and many activities he performs. So all these activities and his divine appearance, Janma karma chame divyam, evam yo veti tattvataha tyaktva deham punarjanma, naiti mameti so Arjuna. So one who knows the transcendental nature of the Supreme Lord's appearance. Krishna appears by his own sweet will. He just wants to appear, so he appears. Whereas we all appear in this world due to our past karma, we are forced to take some body. We are not choosing our bodies. The bodies are just offered to them by the material nature, which is working under the Supreme Lord's control. So whereas Krishna's appearance is divine, janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvataha, tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mam eti so Arjuna. So if we just understand, if we just realize that Krishna's appearance and activities are divine, the benefit what we gain is, we do not have to take another birth in the material world. If we just understand, accept Krishna's appearance and the activities and his various leelas are transcendental. If we understand, accept this simple truth, then we will not have to take another birth in this material world. We will be elevated to the spiritual world. So here Krishna assures us, naiti mam yeti so Arjuna, they will attain my eternal transcendental abode. So in our spiritual form, we will go back to the spiritual world to live with Krishna eternally. So when Krishna has made such elaborate educational system, it's our duty to search an affiliated university, that is the parampara, and find the right teacher and take instructions from him and initiation from him, and practice this knowledge, that is the Krishna conscious way of life. This is our life lesson is Krishna has meticulously arranged these four sampradayas, and he himself comes and he gives all this knowledge. When it is available to us, we should not miss it. We should not be negligent. So with our full heart, we have to take to these teachings of the Supreme Lord, which comes through the proper disciplic succession. Then after Krishna giving this, then Krishna also the removes certain misconception in the society, because we are seeing only the overview, so we will not be covering every sloka. The most important themes only we are seeing. In this first is the transcendental knowledge about Krishna, that what we have seen. Now the in the 14th sloka, 13th sloka, Krishna explains in the material world, he has instituted a varnashrama system for the smooth functioning of the system and for the spiritual elevation of every member of the system. That is the whole purpose. Chaturvarnyam maya shrishtam guna karma vibhagasha tasya kartaram api mam vidhi akartaram avyayam. So this is what Krishna says. According to the three modes of material nature and the work associated with them, the four divisions of human society are created by me. Although I am the creator of this system, you should know that I am yet the non-doer, being unchangeable. So this is what Krishna says. So there are a lot of misconception about the caste system, and then there are some misunderstanding that all spiritual paths lead to the same destination. So these two are very um, popular misconceptions. Krishna here, he removes these misconceptions. This Chaturvarnyam, this is not based on birth. So the Chaturvarnya means four varnas. That means four social order and four spiritual order. Brahmana, uh, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Sudra. These four social orders, and Brahmachari, Grahastha, Vanaprastha, Sannyasi. These are four spiritual orders. So these four social and spiritual orders are on the basis of the modes each one is situated in, and the activities or karma they perform on the driven by these gunas. So it is not based on birth. Uh, Guna karma vibhagasha, on the basis of one's guna and karma. So these four divisions are there, and this it is not for exploiting one by the other. So this is for the smooth functioning of the whole society. For example, in the body we have head, we have the arms, we have the belly, and we have the legs. Every part must be in a proper order, healthy, for the proper functioning of the material, our physical body. Similarly, the society is also a social body. If the social body has to be proper, then all the four divisions must cooperate, and they should not exploit each other. This is not for exploitation or for other. It is for the smooth functioning, and the Supreme Lord has established this. But today, what we see in the Bharatavarsha, Bharata in India, it is far removed from the original system what the Supreme Lord has established. And from here, this sloka we can understand. So Krishna is removing this misconception what is going on today in the name of caste system, which comes considered to gets the same from by birth. But it's not by birth. It should be on the basis of guna and karma. So in any family, any person with any guna can appear. Therefore, according to the guna and karma, one should be accepted in what he is. So the life lesson is we have to choose. Okay, now we cannot reorganize the our society as a whole, which is very difficult. But as an individual, we can identify what guna I am in and what kind of career will suit me. So one, if we choose our career and life based on our guna and karma, not on the external factors, then we can be, we can excel in whatever we choose. Even if you do not excel also, still you will be comfortable. So the way you would excel in the field you choose, if the your guna and karma matches the career one chooses, then he will be happy, and he will not feel stressed. When there is a mismatch, there will be stress. Somebody is heroic, and for him the job in army or police, that will be very comfortable. If you put him in another area, he will not be comfortable. So like that, the guna and the karma should be matched, and that is the basis for the varna. It is not by birth. Determination of caste by birth is refuted here in Bhagavad-gītā by the Supreme Lord. Then this Krishna talked about this. Then we Supreme Lord, or the absolute truth, is realized in three different aspects: Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So we all know the Supreme Lord is Sat Chit Ananda. Sat means eternal. Chit means knowledge. Ananda means bliss, or happiness. So, understanding or realizing Brahman aspect of God is like realizing the Sat aspect of God. That is understanding the eternality, and the realizing the next form, Paramatma. Paramatma means the Supreme Lord is present in everyone's heart. Sarvasya chagam kirdi sannivishto matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. In everyone's heart, I present as Paramatma. Krishna says, I reside in the heart of every jivatma, not human being, every jivatma in any form. So Krishna says, I reside in the heart of every jivatma in whatever form the jivatma lives in that I live with him. So Krishna lives in the heart of every jivatma. So that the jiva, the Paramatma who lives within our heart, and that is the next aspect of realizing God. The yogis, they try to realize this Paramatma, Ashtanga yogis. So realizing or understanding Paramatma is that like we realize two aspects of God. So we understand Sat, eternality, and Chit, also knowledge. And then understanding Bhagavan means Krishna, the supreme. He has a form, he has got all the transcendental qualities, and then ultimately he is a person, and that person is the supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna. So when understanding Krishna means, then we realize all the three aspects: Sat, Chit, and Ananda. So in other two aspects, in Brahman and Paramatma, Ananda is missing, because only Ananda can develop when we have a loving relationship with God. Even in our life, material life also, if you are all alone, there is no Ananda. If you have friends, relatives, if you live with family members, then there is relationship you can exchange, and the Ananda or bliss develops. So same way, having relationship with Bhagavan, and then one develops the bliss. So therefore that relationship is what described in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So understanding Krishna means that is the complete realization of God. So some jnanis, they try to understand Brahman, and that is maybe one level. Yogis trying to understand Paramatma, maybe another level, and the devotees trying to understand Bhagavan and trying to develop a loving relationship with him, that is on the complete realization of God. So these are all uh, uh, given in the fourth chapter. Now, the other misconception is all paths lead to the same goal, also wrong. So, if you take a flight to Bombay, then you will go to Bombay. If you take a flight to Calcutta, you will go to Calcutta. If you take a flight to Delhi, you will go to Delhi. So, different flights, they take you to different destinations. So therefore we have to decide where you want to go. If you want to be with the demigods, then we have to worship the demigods. If you want to go to the Supreme Lord, Krishna, Goloka, Vaikunta, then we have to develop love and uh, service towards the Supreme Lord Krishna or Vishnu. If somebody wants to be with Brahman, then they have to choose Brahman and follow the path of Jnana. So, like that, one has to decide where we want to go, and then accordingly, we have to take up the appropriate process to reach that level. So, here, after explaining this, then Krishna comes to the very important point, the karma. So, karmano hi api bodhavyam cha vikarmana, akarmana cha bodhavyam, gahana karmano gati. So, the action and their repercussions or reactions are very intricate. So the intricacies of action are very hard to understand. Therefore, one should know properly what action is and what forbidden action is and what inaction is. So this is also Bhagavan Krishna describes this. So actually we are all interested uh, in performing actions without any bad reactions, because we are worried about the reaction. When the reaction is what forces us to take repeated birth. So if what we perform, if it doesn't create any reaction, then that is good. That is what is wanted. So how to remove or how to perform action without incurring any reaction. So that Krishna explains how we can remove reactions by proper understanding of action. So karma means prescribed duties, or duties uh, mentioned or prescribed for the different social order and spiritual orders. That means that is as per the scriptures. And some actions which are prohibited in the shastra, if someone performs, that is vikarma, that is prohibited action. Karma is approved action, and akarma is devotional service. So actions are performed for the satisfaction of the Supreme Lord. So these three things one should understand: karma, vikarma, and akarma. So when somebody performs karma, that is pious actions, punya karma, then he enjoys the results. Maybe birth in a rich family, or birth in even higher planets. So they cannot avoid rebirth. They will be still within the material world, but they are forced to take birth, but they will be taking birth in a better situation. And that is the result of pious activities or punya karma. um, then vikarma is prohibited actions, that is stealing, killing, all these sinful activities that results in a birth very miserable kind of situation. So one has to suffer, and very pitiable situation. It puts us into such condition, vikarma. Akarma is we perform action for the pleasure of the Lord, and it does not produce any reaction. So it is akarma means actually it is not inaction. Inaction, action in inaction, or inaction in action. So we perform action for the satisfaction of Krishna, and it does not produce any reaction. So therefore it is called inaction. So it brings only joy, and it takes us to the spiritual world. So we are all supposed to learn the devotional service or akarma type of activities, and perform our duties for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord. Then we will not be incurring any sin, good or bad, and we will not be forced to take a repeated birth. So if from this we can understand, Krishna is not responsible for our either good situation or bad situation. It is all in our hand. If we understand this properly, and we can act properly, we can be always in a good situation. And if we properly follow the akarma, we can get out of this duality, because as long as we are within this material world, the good and bad, this is called duality, dual nature. So we can get out of this dvanda, and we can get back to the spiritual world. See, the spiritual world, there is no dvanda. So that this knowledge, so whatever Krishna has spoken, how one can attain this knowledge. Mataji, you can raise this question. I will be finishing in few minutes, then we can have. Tatvidi pranipatena paripreshnena sevaya upadekshi antite jnanam jnaninas tattva darshanam. So all this knowledge, Krishna tells Arjuna, try to learn this truth about me, this transcendental knowledge, by approaching a proper spiritual master who comes in the disciplic succession. Inquire from him. You have to pariprashna. Prashna means question. So you have to ask him in a very humble, submissive mood, and also render service unto him. And the self-realized soul can impart this knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. The acharyas, they are the seers of truth, so they can explain this knowledge to you. So therefore Krishna gives how to receive this knowledge only by pariprashnena and sevaya. And this teacher, they are to train the students in various sacrifice. So here, for the Kali Yuga, no other sacrifice is effective, only the sacrifice of Sankirtana Yajna, that is congregational chanting or congregational glorification of the Supreme Lord, is the prescribed Yajna for the Kali Yuga. So the topmost sacrifice is glorifying the Supreme Lord, Kirtana. So by mundane knowledge, one develops caliber. Caliber means some people are considered very knowledgeable in that particular field, and there are many doctorates and people with various knowledge. Somebody may be expert in medicine or the engineering or something like that. They are regarded highly for their caliber. But really, in a modern education, there are many people with high caliber, but very rarely we find uh, people with good character. So character development comes from this spiritual knowledge, performing these various yajna, controlling the senses, surrendering to the authority, to the acharyas, and developing the humility, humility and service attitude. This really forms the foundation of the character development. So this comes, the topmost sacrifice recommended for the Kali Yuga is chanting of the holy name, chanting Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this chanting of the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, reading Srimad Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam. So these spiritual literatures, it gives the true understanding of ourself, and it gives us the humility, and it also gives us strength for acquiring sense control by following the four regulative principles: no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, and no intoxication, all this. So the our life lesson from this is life sustaining things are easily available. For example, oxygen, water, spirituality, all these uh, uh, Krishna gives us. So we have to learn to value them. These are very important for physical well-being as well as the spiritual well-being. So with this, we'll be concluding. Of course, today we have concluded in time. So we have seen these four aspects. In the fourth, we have seen the what is the connection between the third chapter and the fourth chapter. In the fourth chapter, this is about transcendental knowledge, and the transcendental knowledge means knowledge about God, that is knowledge about Krishna, and about his appearance and the purpose of his appearance. All this Krishna has, since Arjuna asked one question, he has given all this answer. And what is the, who can acquire this knowledge, and from whom one should acquire this knowledge? From the proper parambara one should take this knowledge. What's it all about? This transcendental knowledge is about the nature of the Supreme Lord. When does he appear? Why does he appear? By gaining this knowledge, what is the benefit to us, to individual jivatma? All these form the transcendental knowledge. And then Krishna also has removed the misconception about the caste system that is prevalent today. So original varnashrama system, what the Supreme Lord established, is totally now it is not there in the Kali Yuga. And removing the reactions, that means we can do our actions without incurring any reaction by dovetailing our action to the Supreme Lord. And then finally, the various sacrifices. Of course, when we study in detail, there are so many swadhyaya yajna, tapa yajna, dana yajna, many sacrifices are discussed. The purpose of all these sacrifices is to gain knowledge, because the Supreme Lord Krishna tells, every the sacrifice, it results in transcendental knowledge. And this transcendental knowledge are the actually the topmost sacrifice, by which one can get the transcendental knowledge is this Yajna Sankirtana Prayat. So the Sankirtana Yajna is what is prescribed or recommended for the present Kali Yuga. So chanting is the recommended Yajna, and reading and the Shastra, etc., it helps in improving our chanting, because chanting with understanding is very important. So with this we'll conclude. And what is the relationship or connection between this fourth chapter and fifth chapter, we will tomorrow we will see, and then continue to the next chapter tomorrow, that is Karma Yoga, action in Krishna consciousness. So I will conclude here the fourth chapter. Any queries or doubts, clarifications,
Yes,
devotees
Prabhuji,
can.
there is one participant have raised hand, Mataji.
Yeah,
Mataji, I am unmuting you. You can ask your question. Sita Lakshmi Mataji.
Yeah, can you hear me?
yeah, yes, Mataji.
Yes, namaste. Thank you so much for the lovely discourse. The question I had was, I just wanted a quick explanation again of karma, vikarma, and akarma. Just
Yeah,
a brief. I know you explained it, but I just want to recap it in my head.
yeah. Karma is what are all the, so for grahastha there are duties prescribed in the scripture. For brahmachari there are duties prescribed, like that. According to our social position, there are duties prescribed. If we perform those duties, they are punya karma, and they are that are authorized actions. Anything that is against these approved actions, they are all called vikarma, that is prohibited activities. So karma will bring positive result, or leads to maybe going to Swargaloka or better birth, etc. And vikarma, prohibited activities, that is like killing, eating meat, all these are meat eating, illicit sex, these are all prohibited activities, and that it is considered to be sin, and it will future birth one has to suffer for that. Now akarma is devotional service. We do maybe the same action, but the goal or aim is to please the Supreme Lord. So either to please the Guru or Krishna. If when we perform these actions, then it does not create or bring any reaction. So it is without any reaction. So therefore it is called akarma. Yes, Mataji, does it satisfy you? Hare Krishna, any other doubts? Anyone
Yes,
has?
Prabhuji, one more participant have raised hand.
Yeah.
Abhinash Pradhan Prabhuji, I am unmuting you. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you told there are 4 regulative principles of sense control.
Yeah.
Can you enlighten on that? And is this written? I mean, is this somewhere in some sloka of Bhagavad-gītā?
You want elaboration on that?
Yes, Prabhuji. I mean, just you can list down or you can just highlight.
Yeah, these 4 regulative principles are no meat eating, no illicit sex, no gambling, no intoxication. So these 4 things actually, the spiritual life, or the Bhagavad Dharma, it it is supported by 4 legs. That is, if we should have compassion, truthfulness, austerity, and mercifulness. So these qualities are very important. If you indulge in these 4 activities, these 4 divine qualities will be destroyed, or we will be losing these qualities. Suppose eating meat involves killing, so we will not have the quality of mercy, like that. Drinking wine, etc., it is we will lose the quality of truthfulness, like that. Each one of them will affect the 4 good qualities needed to that supports the spiritual life.
Okay, okay, Prabhuji, thank you. And
Okay.
are these in detail explained
Yeah, it
in?
is there. If you read Prabhupada's books, Elevation to, you can take small books on the way to Krishna, Elevation to Krishna Consciousness, Krishna Consciousness, the topmost yoga. Like that, there are many, many small books of some 20, 30 pages. In every book, this will be there.
Okay, thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
One more, Sita Mataji have again raised hand. I'm unmuting Mataji.
Okay.
You can ask your question again. Just 1 minute.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, yes, Mataji, you can speak.
Yeah. When you spoke of beautiful detachment, I think those are very nice thoughts. Would you say that is the same as either karma or akarma?
Dutiful detached work, it can be karma or akarma. That depends on the consciousness of the individual. If he performs with the aim to enjoy the fruits for himself, then it remains as karma. If he performs the same action with the whole aim to please the Supreme Lord, then it becomes akarma.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
We are having 2 more questions, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Another participant, Ritvik Bhattacharya ji, I'm unmuting you. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Can you
Krishna
hear me?
Mataji. Yeah.
Prabhuji, actually, my question is that can you again tell the relation between the chapter 3 and chapter 4, and how is it applicable in the real life?
Okay. The relation between chapter 3 and chapter 4 is, in chapter 3, towards the end of the chapter, the Supreme Lord has explained, because Arjuna has raised this question. So, by what one is impelled to do sinful actions as if forced. To that, the Supreme Lord explained, Krishna explained that it is lust, karma. That is the one that forces us to do sinful activities. Okay, so why a person is and is how the lust is able to force the person, because the lust is it is covering our knowledge. Our knowledge is covered by the lust. So this actually our original position, or our real original consciousness is Krishna consciousness. In that Krishna consciousness, we are 100% aware that I am not this body, I am spirit, soul, and Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. And in that relationship, we are to have a relationship and serve him, like that. That knowledge is covered by the lust. That means we forget what we are, who is God. And this we are put into ignorance or forgetfulness by this covering of lust. So that covering has to be removed. So for removing this covering, um, one has to uh, gain this knowledge. So that knowledge is what Krishna is speaking in the fourth chapter. So the transcendental knowledge means knowledge about God, knowledge about our true identity, and more about God. So what is the Supreme Lord? Why He has created this material world? How we are in this material world? What is our relationship with Him? If I want to get out of this material world, what we are supposed to do, what is the process for that, all these form the transcendental knowledge. So in that transcendental knowledge, Krishna tells, even if we know that janma karma chame divyam, if you know that my appearance and my activities, they are all divine, even this understanding is enough for a person to be liberated from the material clutches. So the connection between the third chapter and fourth chapter is lust is covering our knowledge, our consciousness, and therefore to remove to get freed from this lust, because Krishna find in the last sloka of third chapter he tells, therefore the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, bharata, stand and fight. So this through weapon of knowledge, we have to uh, slash this ignorance. So the ignorance is lust. Lust is the root cause for the ignorance. So that should be removed. So for that, the knowledge is needed. That knowledge is what Krishna is speaking in the fourth chapter.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Does it satisfy you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. There is one more question from Puneet Gopinathan.
Yeah.
Puneet Prabhuji, I'm unmuting you. You can ask your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Can you again explain relevant inquiry?
What is your question? Can you put it again?
Can you again explain relevant inquiry?
Relevant inquiries. So when here we find Arjuna is asking relevant inquiries. Relevant inquiry means what is really needed for the spiritual understanding, spiritual elevation of the self. Um, Krishna, Arjuna, he is asking by what one is impelled to do sinful activities. This is a relevant inquiry. So irrelevant means it if you how to eat, what to eat, where to eat. These are eating questions about the material body, material this one. These are all irrelevant. So relevant means it should have some. It should benefit us spiritually or at least materially.
Thanks, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you, Puneet.
Thank you, Prabhuji. It seems there are no any more questions. No other participants have raised their hands.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you all. Thank you all the devotees who have participated in today's class. I thank you from ISKCON Srirangam, and I thank our Raja Prabhu for hosting the program very nicely. Thanks for his help.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you all the participants. We will meet tomorrow again at the same